the left once had a political program. It was called revolution. No one seems to believe in it anymore, partly because the agency supposed to bring it about has disappeared, partly because the system it was supposed to replace has become too complicated and too omnipresent to begin to imagine replacing it, partly because nobody believes in revolution anymore and the very language associated with it has become as old-fashioned and as archaic as that of the Founding Fathers. It's easier, someone once said, to imagine the end of the world than it is the end of capitalism. And with that, the idea of revolution overthrowing capitalism seems to have vanished. Well, let's be fair. The left did have another political strategy, whatever you think about it, and that was reformism, sometimes in contradistinction to revolutionary communism, called socialism. But I'm afraid no one believes in that any longer either. The reformist or social democratic parties are in a complete shambles. They have no programs any longer, save perhaps to regulate capitalism so it doesn't do any catastrophic damage. There is omnipresent corruption, both in these parties and in the system at large, which is in any case too enormous and too complex to be susceptible of any decisive tinkering which might improve it, let alone lead to something you could truly call systemic change. Social democracy is in our time irreparably bankrupt, and communism seems dead. Thus, it would seem both of Gramsci's celebrated alternatives, the war of maneuver and the war of position, no longer seem theoretically adequate to the current situation. Fortunately, there exists a third kind of transition out of capitalism, which is less often acknowledged, let alone discussed. And that's what was historically called dual power. Indeed, dual power will be my political program and will lead to my utopian proposal, as I'll try to show in a moment. The phrase is, of course, associated with Lenin and his description of the coexistence of the provisional government and the network of Soviets or workers' soldiers' councils in 1917, a genuine transitional period if there ever was one. But it has also existed in numerous other forms of interest to us today. I would most notably single out the way in which organizations like the Black Panthers or Hamas function to provide daily services, food kitchens, garbage collection, health care, water inspection, and the like, in areas neglected by some official central government. In such situations, power moves to the networks to which you turn for practical help and leadership on a daily basis. In effect, they become an alternate government without officially challenging the ostensibly legal structure. The point at which a confrontation and a transfer of power takes place, at which the official government begins to wither away, at which revolutionary violence appears, will of course vary with the overall political and cultural context itself.